And he also happens to be a scientist who's really helped to develop those Pueblo chili strains, and now has really turned his energy to ensuring that we don't lose water and farmland in Pueblo County. Next, we have Carlos Atencio from Costilla County. He's the mayordomo of San Pedro y San Pablo Mission Church, which you might have heard about yesterday with the Endangered Places lunch. He can talk about all of the incredible preservation work that he and the community around him have been doing to preserve their churches, protect their cemeteries, and continue to protect the culture and way of life there. We also have Najah Abu Serryeh. Did I get it? Serryeh. Darn it. Who is joining us this morning from Sun Valley, which is a neighborhood in West Denver. She's a community advocate, an Arab American refugee, and also a nutrition leader at the Sun Valley Youth Center. And I should add, has been working really hard also to protect and preserve the historic school where her children have gone and has now been closed in the Sun Valley neighborhood. And then finally, but not least, we have Crystal Rizzo. She is the Director of Cultural Preservation from the Southern Ute Indian Tribe. And so first I'm going to turn this over to Mike and ask you to talk a little bit around what you were working to protect and why it is so important. Yeah, that might be better, and then everyone can see you.
Hello everyone, and thank you, Don, for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today. As Don mentioned, my name is Mike Bartolo. I was born and raised on a small farm east of Pueblo, Colorado. That area is known as the St. Charles Mesa. There's Vineland, Avondale. You saw a picture of Avondale. And that area is one of the most productive agricultural areas in the state. And I had the great fortune of being born and raised in that area. My grandparents were, as many of the people in Pueblo came to the Pueblo because of the steel and the mining industry. They were immigrants from Italy. That's very common. And then once they were able to save up enough money, they bought these small farms, and that's really what sustained our family for multiple generations. We've got now the fourth generation living on that place, it's been about 100 years now since that first occurred. So it's a really incredible place. As good fortune would have it, though, after I left high school, I went away to college, to Colorado State University, went away to get some other degrees, and ended up coming back to work in that same general area with the Colorado State University Agricultural Experiment Station. So I got to work with the farmers, and I got to do something I just loved to do when I was growing up. And during that time, agriculture is to me, it's hard for me to describe. How am I going to describe how I feel about agriculture to this group? But I'll just say a little story. I had the opportunity to go to Europe one time to look at agriculture, but also got to visit these beautiful cathedrals and buildings. And I could see how that can evoke a sense of beauty and within the architecture and the spirituality. And I got to think, what is that for me? What invokes that for me? And that is when I hold some soil in my hand, and I still, after 62 years old, and I still feel that way. That it is such a powerful thing. I look at that soil and it gives me goosebumps, because I know that's what sustains us. And on our farm and other farms, I know that is what sustained my family and is part of giving us food. And I just never ceases to amaze me, their miracle every year where I can put some seed in the soil and then it'll provide something for me to feed. So that's, I don't know how I can do that, but that's what that place means to me. And so during the course of my time, I got to work with the farmers, but I also got to see some very harsh things, and that's the loss of water and land to urban sprawl, either directly or indirectly. Oftentimes municipalities will come down in that neck of the woods and buy farms strictly for their water rights. And I don't know if any of you have heard of places like Sugar City or Only Springs. maybe don't even heard these places. These were once vibrant, loving communities, and I can't go. It's hard for me to go down there now to see what they live, because the municipalities bought these, and then coming up here, it really is difficult, because I drive through up I-25 or even I-70, and I see what that's caused. It's the sprawl of these beautiful, pristine prairies being populated with strip malls and cul-de-sacs, and during the course of a lot of these exchanges, one of the municipal water providers told me, says, well, don't worry, Mike, this water is going to a higher and better use. And I've never been able to wrap my head around that. It's a matter of values. I can see that, yeah, an acre farm ground doesn't generate much property tax compared to having 15 houses on it. Anyway, that's where I come from, and I now have the opportunity in my last lap around the track, so to speak, to do something. I want to make sure not just my kids and grandkids or other people, but just we as a community understand this is such a wonderful God-given gift we have, and it's just right beneath our feet. We don't have to go anywhere. It's right there. It'll sustain us. It'll provide us places where we can gather and celebrate food and get together, and that's what I hope to accomplish in this last stage. And there's various efforts we can do that, working with conservation groups. There's tools out there, but we just gotta go against this tide of people that really want to see it as going to a higher and better use. So thank you for your time.
Carlos, you want to come on up here next?
Sorry, I'm a little wobbly. Carlos Atencio is my name, and I come from San Luis, which is the oldest town in the state of Colorado. I am now the 5th generation in our family, in the community. And I'm here trying to protect, working on protecting our churches. As you saw yesterday, we have 9 mission churches in our county. All of these churches, or most of them, are in pretty bad shape. And the reason for that is because we are probably the poorest county in the state of Colorado. Not only are we poor, but the population is down. The population keeps decreasing all the time. I said I'm the 5th generation, but we were 6 siblings. Out of the 6, I'm the only one that stayed in San Luis. We have 4 kids. My wife and I have 4 kids. Out of the 4 kids, 1 has stayed in San Luis. The rest of them going in different directions, looking for jobs, looking for a way to make a living. In our community, the biggest employer is probably our county itself, where we have county treasurer, county assessor. They probably each employ 4 to 5 people. They're our biggest employers. So what can we do? Lack of money, lack of jobs, makes it very hard for us to maintain these churches. And though if only those churches, those walls could tell the story, the stories would be great. We had a church. It's not the same church because our church was burnt down a couple times. But we've had a church in that community since I think the records show back to 1858. Now, we have records that show that people have been buried in those churchyards. Some of these churchyards have acted as cemeteries for our community. We have to try to do the best we can to preserve those churches. They tell the story, and we're new at this. We're new at trying to preserve our buildings, our churches. So we're having a hard time. But hopefully we'll be able to. So appreciate being able to come up and tell you a little bit of our story. So, thank you.
Next, I'll invite Najah up.
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here today. Thank you, Dan, for giving me this chance. I kind of nervous. It's the first time to talk in front of huge amounts. So I will try my best. I write it down, so I will just read it. So I'm Najah Abu Serryeh, an Arab American woman. My originally from Palestine. I was born at Jordan. I got my American citizenship 7 years ago. I came to America with my husband and my first daughter like refugees. My second daughter was born here in 2016, and we are all American citizens. It was a long, hard trip. It was not easy at all. We lived in the city of Aurora for 1.5 years. At that time, we applied for public housing. We accepted at Sun Valley homes in the west side of Denver. We lived in a townhouse with a front yard, backyard, and a lot of green spaces around us. My kids was attended to Fairview Elementary School. Fairview was another home for all of community. The staff was so helpful and kind with our kids and the families too. They give the kids what they need, such as coats, materials for schools. We received resources such food baskets and gift cards. Our kids felt safe at Fairview. There was no bullying happening since Fairview was a diverse community. You can find different kind of people, Vietnamese, Arab, American, too many. And everyone know how to respect each other. I always felt safe in Sun Valley. I know everyone around me. We had the chance to know each other well from many communities, events that we attended. The events was organized by Sun Valley Leasing Office and Fairview Elementary School. We took care of each other and help each other Even we spoke different language, we had different religions and different skin colors, doesn't matter. In 2019, everybody were asked to leave because there will be redeveloped the entire neighborhood. They turned down our homes with all of our memories. And now I live in another Denver housing community at Columbine Houses. That I know the next it will be to change, so I will be moving again. It's hard. In 2019, I have, sorry for the inconvenience. And they closed Fairview now, last year. I have been fighting with another Sun Valley families to keep Fairview open. We attended meetings with Denver Public School, but they closed it. They said there isn't enough enrollment. which isn't a reason for me because all of the family they have moved, they will come back. With new families will move to the Sun Valley again. So there will be, now there is no neighborhood school for our kids. My life was changed a lot. When we moved, I stopped seeing my neighbors, the friendship that I made. I need to take my two daughters to school because they have two different schools far away from our home, and I kind of feel it's not safe just to send them walking. And I go in many trips every day from my home to their school, and my job as the food and nutrition at Sun Valley Youth Center. Both my work and my kids' school was in the other side of my home in Sun Valley. It has been also hard for my big daughter. She gets bullied in her new school because she is the only Arab American kid at that school. And you know, as mom and dad, it's not easy to see your kids like sad because they keep bullying because their religion or from where they are. Preserving our homes and our building is also preserving our identities, because our homes, not just houses, they are our dreams, our memories, our experiences, our relationships, family, friends, etc. If you want to rebuild our homes, do it in a way that helps to keep our way of living and our community life with the green spaces and playground for our kids, not building many floors without spaces for gathering. And thank you all.
And next, Crystal.
My name is Costilla Rizzo, and I am a member of the Southern Ute Indian Tribe, and I'm also the director of the Cultural Preservation Department. I'm speaking, typically our Tribal Historic Preservation Officer, Cassandra Atencio, would be speaking, but she is currently on leave. So it's interesting actually being here and talking about relocation and displacement, because we're sort of the original peoples that were dislocated and moved for towns like Boulder to exist. And often our stories are not included in part of the movement and dislocation. But the project I want to speak about is our Southern Youth boarding school. In 2020, the campus was put on the endangered places list. And since then, I think with COVID and just different things, our leadership has decided at least to demolish the main school building. I know we've worked hard to be able to keep that building. There's some historic murals in there that were painted by Sam Ray, who was I think he's a Navajo, who's a Navajo student. And the largest mural in the main building shows the Ute way of life. We've documented it as best as we can, but that building is slated to be demolished sometime this spring. But there's several other buildings that are still up, and I think out of those buildings, only one is in current use, but we're hoping to renovate another building, the cafeteria. It also has murals, I think also by Sam Ray, that have some of our traditional, one has our Sundays, one has our bear dance. And so that's the project that we're currently working on. I think that in terms of some of the preservation work, I know that Tribal Council has to balance both the financial cost to the tribe for example, renovating the largest building, but I think there's also other things that they have to balance. The boarding school era was a horrific event for Indigenous people in the country, and of course, Southern Youth. And so some of those things they're balancing are there's tribal elders who have very sort of mixed experiences at the school. Some suffered greatly, some had great experiences. And our school is one of the first that was on a reservation. So Ute people, we had kids taken to Albuquerque for school, and many of them didn't come back alive. So we said, no, we're not doing that. And that's how we sort of have the boarding school located on the reservation. And so, and part of that, I think, experience, of course, is the loss of language, loss of lots of different things. And so now today, with our campus, we have, of course, a mix of new buildings, a casino, our growth fund, these different buildings, and we still have, of course, a couple of the historic buildings that are still there. Younger generations sort of want some of that to not be visible anymore, because it is hard. I mean, again, loss of language, we have some of the same issues, alcoholism, mental health issues that many other tribal communities have, that can really be sort of, I think, taken back to or looked at from the boarding school experience. So should some of these buildings stay up? Some elders who I think they had different experiences, really think it should, because I think it's an important way to educate some of the younger generation, both native and non-native, about the experience, kind of, I think, looking about where we were, where we come from, and then how we can sort of use that maybe as a visual of resiliency, sort of very different from 20 years ago, 50 years ago. And so I know that has also been part of the conversation. Is cultural preservation, who our department, of course, has the THIPO, NAGPRA, but we also have our language programming and our heritage and events. So all of these different entities in our cultural preservation. So should some of these things stay up? As historic preservation, yes, we think they should. We should put in resources, but also how can we utilize those spaces for the next generation? How can we use those spaces? I know that there's even been talk of maybe putting a language lab in a space that kind of was meant to take our language. And so I know the cafeteria, the veterans want to be able to utilize that space, have their veterans services. One of the main areas that's still part of the original campus is the quad that has the flagpole, and that space has been dedicated to the veterans. But some of those veterans talk about even their interest in having gone into the military was when they were in boarding school, was they had to march. And so it's just a sort of familiar space and activity for them. So now they would like to utilize this space. We're going to be working on doing some renovations or rehabilitation to the what is now our annex, so our wildlife or natural resources building, but was originally the girls' dormitory. And so you can kind of see, I recently did a tour with our construction project manager, and you can sort of see the kids were the ones that had to upkeep the building. So you see, they were painting the outside, and it's now you can look at it, it's oh, it's pretty bad painting. But so some of these things that we actually want to keep some of that, and then have interpretive signage to sort of talk about and share that story. Because we want not only a story to be shared with the tribal community, but the larger community, since it is I think maybe the only boarding school there's only 2 federally recognized tribes in Colorado, us and Ute Mountain. I'm not sure about they have a school as well. I don't know about the process of their saving that school, but yeah, so that's just one of the big projects we're working on. And I think one of the main things is how do we balance, sort of really difficult experiences that tribal elders had there with being able to keep the story alive, because I think it's important for younger generations, and tribal and non-tribal, and how to move forward and continue to utilize those spaces. So